Today I am going to be giving a discussion on more of the usability and its importance. Well, you guys, most of the guys are, aware about the term of usability, and we just will discover today what is the basics about it, more on the design perspective, but how it is helpful for everybody who all are, creating an experience or an application for the real life audience. In this presentation, I will be considering some outline points what I am gonna be discussing today. For example, what is usability, how it's done, how it is important for the stakeholder as well as developers, what is the right time to perform the usability in a project, how this problem discovery helps us and how we discover that, what are the types of techniques we can perform for the usability. There is one good element so that we understand like why it is important. Because of that, I will be giving some description about a successful product in the current scenarios, and a future perspective also, like how the usability can be growth for us, not just as an application, but how the futuristic scope will. So by starting this, no doubt that usability is something which we perform as a technique for a product on the basis of the user-centered interaction design. But as we break the terminology as user ability, this is more on the target user or the user who gonna be coming to our platform to check the ability, how they easily perform a particular task. I will definitely want to say this here is that if they perform a task very well, it's a win-win for the designer, developer, stakeholder, as well as for the user. But if they fail, it's not their loss, it's the loss of the application or the people who created it. So this is very important for us to do it. Doing it is a very easy method. We can observe them. We have many techniques how we can observe them, not just by keeping them in an environment where they can perform a particular task or different tasks. But apart from that, we can do it in online tools as well as in a real time how the UX designers or UI designers perform. We will be discussing this more in detail. When to do a usability task is like more on the early development or starting of the designs when we perform a small interaction inside the team. That way, after that also when we release a product, we can perform it. It is helpful to understand in the early ages only of a product that how the user is behaving with them. Is it an easy task for them so that it won't look like a patchwork in the later time of. Similarly, the basic usability problems are not very big because experience created by the very small interaction elements. For example, like the tiny clickable. So the spacing we give, the styling we give, the button should be that much big that if it is on a mobile, that should be under a thumb area. And if we are giving it in a web application, so we have a vast area for a screen to design, in which when we click a user, he can easily know what are the primary action, what are the secondary actions. So the differentiation should be very clear with them. Apart from that, when we talk about the primary and secondary, information and content is also a very important part for an application. So users should able to scan all the information present in a website. Users should also be very careful with the error handling, the messages we provide them on the right time, and also we should give them the accessibility to have go back into the system where they start from, because they should not feel like stuck into a particular page or while performing a task that they cannot go back now. So it is generally a user behavior thing. Similarly, when we give them a very big task to perform interaction, which is going like number of clicks and all, so that user will lose the context where he started from and when it's gonna end. It should be as small as possible and as attached to them as in a clear navigation what they are looking for, and they can perform it very easily. Why it is not just important for a designer, because no doubt they have to give it a very major or huge impact while designing it. It is also important for stakeholders and clients, because the major role for them is to maintain or manage the resources, the time, the money going behind this application to be live. No doubt, this is a good point to have always your users' feedback and feel good about it, as in how the user gonna perform the functionalities and the features what we want to emphasize to make their experience better, but also the use cases which is more of the business use case, and we will convert them as in a user case in the real world of time. They can also be helpful when we talk about the flaws in an application before we get them live. We know how the user is unable to perform some certain or maybe the important task of an application. How it is important for developer is because they might feel like designers are already creating a better experience or they are performing user experience while designing it. But there are some time that developers generally go for the libraries, components, or the design system, for example, and Flutter, Airbnb, where they can just use the components and they can create an experience. But sometimes what happens is when they create something like this, you guys always see that there are 2-3 variations of a drop down, of a search, or other UI components. But when you keep it in a business use case, they might not be the way how user is gonna perform that task. Because sometimes when you mouse over on something and you are giving me the message, they might be hiding a very important button which I wanted to click on. So those small things will be hampering us as an application experience when user will feel like how to remove this certain thing and perform the next step. Apart from this, if we take an early feedback or a early experience of them, how they're using an application, can also helpful to just solve the problem initially, and rather redesigning it or redeveloping it in a certain way where it will look like more as a patchwork rather than a seamless experience. How we will do the problem discovering the usability. So usability is very different when it comes to users, because no doubt even in our target user, how they perform with the application might vary. Some people try to use the shortcuts a lot, but some people might want to follow the whole processor. We have seen in our daily lives for small social networking sites and simple as WhatsApp, where our family use them as well and where we use them. They will try to learn the flow as in a user flow, not as in an information flow. They know that if we click here, this will attach something into it. But when we do it, we know we want to use camera or we want to use gallery, and all the options are available over there. So this is very important to discover the problem the target user can give us, so we can bring some benchmark. For example, we can have a competitor with us, or if it is not there also, we have other ways of discovering it. But we have competitor, what we can do is we can give the same task them to perform in our application as well as in a competitor application, and then we can understand and observe like how easily they can perform a certain task. So by that we can already set a benchmark for them. Like if they had using, for example, WhatsApp, we can bring something like other portal which is more using as a chatting thing, and we can know the benchmark is set for the WhatsApp and how we can use that experience in our application as well. Eye tracking. Eye tracking is more of the how user is consuming the information in a complete website. We have a heat generated map on an application or a mobile where user is trying to penetrate his attention while performing a certain task. So when, for example, we generally see a logout is at a particular location, a profile image at a particular location, because most of the time when users are improving their experience, they are having a certain ideas into their mind, like this information gonna be presented this angle only. So for example, attachment icon, if we see, we all are aware that attachment icon is to attach something. So we will look for that. Similarly, if we change icon altogether into a very different meaning which won't give the idea, user will be confused. So by eye tracking can be helpful when we are trying to create a new kind of design system where we want to break the consistent design system what is following till now, and we feel like, okay, let's give something very creative to a user and see how they are gonna interact with it. So eye tracking can be a very good impression for us, like if they are looking at the right information or not. Following in the same example, we can say like maybe user won't able to track the information, but will they able to learn it? So learnability is something which we all do in our day-to-day life as well, and even in the applications what we are doing. We have seen how the design has been approved from the time of web development till a UX design experience when we talk about. So it can be possible that we have a certain elements which have been improved a lot as in a design element perspective, and we always try to fetch new design, creative application, and a very beautify visually impact to a user that they feel, wow, this is a wow design. But if we talk about a usability in this, we should always know that a learnability thing should be there, so that even if we tell a user a one-time thing that this gonna be the task for performing by clicking on this or acting on the buttons, they should learn it. Each participant who is there for performing this usability should have a knowledge about it, should be given the guidelines like how this angle is, and then we have to ask them to perform the task again. If they able to do it perfectly, then I think our user are able to learn our new way. When we talk about the usability testing, there are plenty of it. But they can be categorized into some of them, because it is not always possible that we have our target audience present with us, and it is also possible that we can reach out to them in many ways. So I will talk about some of them. For example, moderate in person. So in a moderate in person, we will give a task to a particular user to perform in front of us. We won't say them like do this, do that. We will ask them, we will just give them a basic use case like, okay, perform this or add your profile or send an invite to somebody. And we will just sit and simply see them. In that scenario, the facilitator and the participant will be in the same place and just observing without questioning them and testing them that they are good at what they're performing. This is a very important part of it, because sometimes what happens is people like techie who are like us, we feel like we are very new era and we can do any functionality. So we don't speak by ourselves like, yeah, we don't know this. We won't admit that. So whatever users say is not true, but what they do is definitely gonna be true. So if they easily gonna do it, means we are really successing with our design system. Similarly, when this is more on the moderate remote side, in that perspective, what happen is we will let a user feel free in an environment, and we will be the secondary people who observe them from a back of a wall, like which can be transparent and all. So we have these kind of laboratories with us, which will only perform the usability task. They have a black mirrors where the inspectors can be at the backside, and we can clearly see what is going on, and let the user with some certain task to perform the website. In that scenarios, we can use cameras as well if we don't have a proper usability library. About unmoderate remote is when we are unable to reach up our participant or a user in person to them, we can always ask them as in a survey or maybe perform a task, for example, screen sharing like this. So what they are doing is we can just observe from the other part of the camera and let them hold, we don't need to hold their hand, let them perform a particular task, what we are giving them, and feel free them to perform this. So that we can record how they are doing it and will they able to fetch the information or the content they are looking for. Hallway testing. Hallway testing is more of like guerrilla testing. In this, it happens when we have a very vast user target. We don't have like particular targets who wanna use this for certain business use case. For example, WhatsApp, Facebook, and everything. So these kind of Twitter, Facebook can be used by professionals as well as some housewives or the people who are just on the social networking site. In that scenarios, we can just be in some place where there are many users present and they have like 5 minutes or 10 minutes for our quick questions. This also help us as it's a very cheap method because we can reach out to them simply by taking their 5 minutes. Fall on the wall testing is more of an observational technique. It is defined as an ethnography where we cannot disturb the user by saying do this task or not. We will be just in their environment, let them do what they are doing, and just be a very quiet inspector. We can be at the side and just see how they are performing. We won't go and ask them like, can you do this task or not? We will just observe where multiple users are sitting and doing their own work in their ethnography, and we will see how it is easy for them. So as our friend just explained the accessibility testing, it is more of like how a user, maybe a person who can't see it, an example of holding a baby in one hand and performing a task. So in these scenarios, when we talk about that, these are situational options, but this will help when we talk about the ethnography. For example, a pregnant woman in an office hour or in some certain social networking site, baby is something which is a situation for a lady to be in their life. In that particular scenario, is she able to perform the task can be a fly on the wall testing for us. Apart from all that, also we can always have an expert review. So expert review means the people who are more in only in the usability testing, they are aware about all the types of problem discovery, what we told initially, and the problem we discussed. For example, the button size, the interaction, the mouse overs, our error handlings are able to be done or not. Expert review can just be given an application and let them use it with all the tasks need to be performed. In these situations, he know that these are following the heuristic principles or usability principles for a user to have a seamless experience. This can be done by any of the UX designers or interaction designer in the team, if we have. Now we will talk about the tools which are available online, because no doubt we cannot always reach to our users directly or indirectly, or maybe there are some time constraints. Apart from this, the use case can be when we are just developing it in an early age, we can just have an online tool system where we can observe some of the key points. For example, the time engagement, how user is performing, how long they will be there, the user hours, the impression what they had. So for if you see, the Optimizely is more of the A/B testing platform. A/B testing I will be explaining in the further slides. In that scenarios, they can track the time of the user for how long they visited our websites, what are their first impression. Also, user feel is something which will give you a video footage of a user testing, in which you can also listen about the voiceover commentary of them and the mouse movement. So all these tools are available in the market. We can use just as a plugin, and we can let user use it, and we can have that all the reports about it, that how user is engaging with our system. Now we will talk about the successful product in our real-time application, Netflix. I know because of this lockdown, most of the people are using it and having a seamless experience. But why we feel that this is a seamless experience? Do they have a magic recipe? No doubt, experience always come with a magic recipe. But we had figured it out, and in that scenarios, we know that Netflix always give us a relevant data. Maybe because what we are watching, they are observing us. And apart from that, how they make us engage within a system is maybe by the artificial intelligence. But we can name something which known as A/B testing. In A/B testing, what happens is it is more of like a experiment where we give a user 2-3 different types. We won't give it to one user only. We will give it to a set of users. So, for example, Netflix have millions of users. In that million, they might have sorted out some user to do some testing and some users for other. In that scenario, they will see among A and B which is performing the better, and they will try to reflect it in their upcoming updations of Netflix. Let us see some example of that in our how that experiment has been performed. So, for example, this is a test where they had given us a control experience one time, but they had created 3 versions of it, like version 1, version 2, version 3. In all these version 1 will be using by a particular user base, version 2 will be given to a particular user base, and version 3 similarly will be given to a third user case. You might have logged it in multiple times, where you have seen that when you logged in the first time, they will give you a very different picture at the background. But when you sign on, they give you a different picture. Why is it so? Because they feel like that the first time you have seen might not be very interactive or the content you are looking for, they will try for a different content to make you sign in again. Similarly, you might have observed then when you switch account, because account can be used by 2-3 users at a time. Whenever you switch a user, they will give you a different picture of the main screen, where you will feel like it is related to you or not. So how it happen is, when we are using a different user profile, we see a particular kind of content in which they will test this, and they will only reflect related to the techniques. For example, here they had shown for family. Similarly, for kids, they will be giving us a very different picture. Now you guys might think like, this is a very simple use case, because we know kids are more on cartoon, and people who are already watching this can be a different kind of interest while streaming online content. But no, if you see, they had a controlled use case when we talk about a similar series. For example, if you see the example here, the short game have 3 different wallpapers. In that, they will try to look which kind of wallpaper is attracting more to the user when they try to see a series. You guys will agree, like, we have a lot of time in this lockdown. We generally go for the content even we don't feel like to watch. Maybe because the wallpaper is attractive to us, or we feel, okay, the golf sound is more creatively or maybe interesting. Similarly, when you see in the another example of how to train your dragon, they had given us multiple kind of wallpapers or screenshot from their current season. So you can see that they had tested it, and whatever gives us the better rating, they will try to use it in the other updation of it. So that's how they experiment with the current user without make them know that they are getting be tested at the back. Now you know the recipe. Now we'll talk about how the futuristic usability looks like. We all might have engaged with Alexa, Siri at some point of time, and now we have a Google Voice as well. But how we can create this experience? I think most of the time we felt irritated when these voice UX won't work for us, because this is more of an interaction point of view, and there are no more screens now. If we talk about Alexa, apart from Siri, Siri can show us something. So Alexa is something like a device which won't give us a perspective of what she is actually processing, but we just throw our question. In that scenarios, it can be wrong or right, but how we can use this as a usability, and why we should do it? Because no doubt the purchase of the voice interaction devices are getting increased, and the growth is high. Even our parents are nowadays try to speak when they talk to a MI TV or Samsung TV or LG TV, they try to use mic and speak for whatever the content they are looking for. Also, we have seen the kind of use cases when they try to search something. So we generally go for the relevant content by saying the right term, but they will just give us the whole big statements like how to make this dish, or how to make this cream from this kind of milk. So they give us more content in that perspective. So voice UX is no doubt is a huge growth applications nowadays. If we see a scenario here, a user is trying to talk to Alexa or a device where he say, set my alarm to 7:15, where the device's understanding is, okay, calling Selema Martin. Then user will say again, no, set my alarm to 7:15. Generally, it end up to a discussion where devices will say, sorry, I can't help you with that. Where user will definitely gonna frustrate and don't want to again set an alarm with the device, where they will try to go manually and set it up. In these cases, what happen? Either they won't get the matching data because recognition didn't heard it previously, or there was no time to give an output where they won't hear it exactly what we are saying. So there are two use cases, but we can increase it always by having an increased user base. For example, if 10 or 30 people will tell a same statement of set my alarm in different way, machine learning is helping the devices to understand like what they are trying to tell, and they can refine that error handling for sure by improving dis- by the capability of describing the problem areas. Similarly, this is the case of the Apple Watch, where people get so frustrated that they went Twitter and they had made some statements about it. So we can understand that how much people are getting interacted with these kind of devices. For example, I'll just give you one example here, where a person had got some surgery and his Apple Watch is telling that, hey man, you didn't exercise from so many days. So they feel like there is very lack of user experience or understanding, that devices are not able to understand them. But when we talk to them manually, we talk to them like we are talking to a friend to do a certain task. So this is more on that perspective. So this can be our area of growth as an usability testing, where we can have a similar example of booking a cab, setting an alarm, and listening our favorite music or browsing our favorite Netflix or Amazon season. In that scenarios, when we test more and more user how they try to interact with that devices, we can always become better when it comes to the responses given back to the user. Similarly, these inspirations can be helpful for us to relate with the new and unexplored. Nobody had yet achieved the perfect devices where they can perform everything what you say to them. Similarly, there are possible of many heuristic applications to be achieved by the voice alone. Adding on the secondary responses, visuals gonna be having a technical feedback, and they are improving day by day. No doubt, when we see in the first Alexa and when we talk it now, there is a lot of improvement into this. So I think that would be our inspiration to just go forward with the usability testing still for now.